Today's video, we're going to talk about why the less changes you make in Google Ads, the better. Why less is always better in Google Ads. Okay, this is a very, very, very important point that you must get if you're ever going to make any serious coin with Google Ads. A lot of people think, the key to life is the more action, the better. With Google Ads, it's not the case. Now, action in the form of studying what works, watching videos on this channel, maybe some other ones that might be as good, which, other information about PPC and online advertising is pretty sparse out there. I know because I look for it myself. That is where you should be putting your actual action into, to studying and becoming the absolute, master at understanding how ads work and what works for other people. As it comes to actually putting the action into play, you need to be thinking through again what you're going to do, given that the more changes you make in your Google Ads account, the worse your results are going to be. Now we all know you got to make changes to make improvements, but every change you make sets you back a little bit with how the system that Google Ads has is set up nowadays. Okay, so like it or not, this is what we're dealing with when we're talking about making money with Google Ads. There's a lot of people who think that if their ads are not working, that the key to it is making changes. Let's change this. We'll see if this works. Well, that didn't work. Let's change this. Let's try this. And that's a recipe for disaster when it comes to Google Ads. And this even extends to like people that hire ad agencies, and they go into their account, check the change history, and they say, this agency is not making very many changes. I'm going to fire them. What matters at the end of the day is the actual results, not how much changes are made. And actively, you want your agency to make as little changes as possible, given every change is actually going to cut into your profits a little bit, or a lot in some instances, depending on how big the changes are. So you got to be good at a good person who's really great at running ads, Google Ads, is going to understand what to change and only make measurable, well thought through changes that pretty much 80% of the time are net positive for the business because they're experienced, to get them from where they're at now to the top of the mountain where you're making all the money. And they're well thought out in terms of the spacing itself so that they don't have their ad account performance go up and down, and so forth. Because that's what happens when you make too many changes with your account. And so, as they say, like if you're a carpenter, you should always measure twice and cut once. This is the same thing as it comes to Google Ads. You should be thinking through what you're doing, not once, not twice, but like 5, 10 times, and then making the change after every possible thing you thought through has been thought out and done, if you will, in terms of your research. And then you went ahead and put the change in play after evaluating all the other changes you could make and weeded out all those potential options as well. And then on top of that, if you're not experienced enough with ads, getting with somebody who has 10 years plus of Google Ads experience that just deals with Google Ads pretty much as their entire sole day job, and run your changes even through them so that the likelihood of something happening, whether that is to work or not. In a situation where you're going to lose money making a change in your account, at least it's, ultimately likely to benefit you in the long run and with a high probability, given that in business, that's what it is. You're a gambler. You're gambling on doing certain things that will increase your business one way or another, whether it's Google Ads, hiring somebody, and the better research or more research you put into it, the better, and research that counts from people that actually have done this thing so you can learn from them. Because if you're just going to randomly try stuff and get your ads to work from that, you're going to basically run out of money before it ever makes money for you at the end of the day, or you're going to drive any success you have down into the freaking dirt, so to say. You ultimately, if you're going to make a gamble and making a change, and also knowing that every change hurts your results because of how the algorithm works nowadays, you want to know that at least has a decent chance of working before you do it. The people that make the millions with their ads, that's exactly how they're operating in today's environment, including myself. So with that said, I'm going to go over all the micro details about this, since so many people get this wrong, and how to actually make changes in your account so you don't have, volatile results, see your results go down a lot because you're making too many changes. Before I do, if you do not know who I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in their profitability, basically in excess of the management fees that we charge. We're the only agency out there who offers any kind of similar guarantee, which should tell you something about the quality of the information I'm sharing with you here. So with that said, getting into the content here, you'll make more money overall in Google Ads once you figure out how the system really works and how how it really works is Google Ads is driven off of an algorithm now that's sole purpose is to optimize the ad space for every search result on Google. Or if you're talking about running ads elsewhere on YouTube and other places, that's also what's happening. Their goal is to get people to click through the ads, like it so much that in the future when they have another search to make, they not only come back to Google, but they go to click on an ad and click and be more apt to click on that ad than they were before versus the organic search results itself, okay? And Google spent millions and millions of dollars in developing an algorithm in real time that can decide how the search results and specifically the ads in the search results should display to maximize that outcome. A lot of people that want to advertise in a certain niche market, they have different ads to pick from, and their goal with that is to find the advertisers' ads that are going to work the best for their users. Not overall, but on an individual user level as well. But the algorithm's going to simply study all the past performance of those ads that are set up to want to show up in a certain place, in a certain search result, and identify which ones should show up and which ones shouldn't. Which ones should be higher on the list, which ones should be lower. Which ones should have bigger ads versus smaller ads. And they're all doing this on an ongoing basis. What you could be on top today, you could be in the middle tomorrow, just based upon them results that you're showing them that you're getting, and that is how your users are interacting with your ads, whether they like your ads or not, will determine how much you're making with your ads. Because when Google ultimately decides that you're the best advertiser in your market, they just lay it on thick. Why? Because they want to encourage you to stick around, but they also know that that's going to contribute to the best experience for their users. So they're going to give you a higher in the listing ad, which gets you more clicks. They're going to show you a higher percentage of the time. They're going to show you in front of people that are more likely to convert into a sale, which they can kind of tell that with all the data that they have before they even click or do anything. They're going to charge you less per click, all of it. And the guys who aren't doing so good of a job for their users, it's the opposite. They're actually trying to push out those guys actively. They'll want new fresh blood to come in, but they're going to evaluate them, and the guys that don't do as good as the top guys, they're going to push them back out. And they just do this over and over and over again, which is why in most niche markets, you could see new guys come in for like 90 days and then they're out. And that's like 90% of the guys. And then a guy will come back and try again, and then he's out. Why? Because they can never break through that threshold of trying to get Google to actually favor them in the results. And the only way that they're going to do that is if their algorithm studies your ads for long enough and then ultimately see that the ads are better than the competition. And if you can't do that, you're wasting your time with ads in a competitive market. You'll never make money, okay? Or at least you should be in the top 20%, given that, there's often 10, 15, 20 guys cycling in and out of those 4 ad spots on the top of Google. They have a lot of people to pick from ultimately. Now, if there's only one other person you're competing with, that's a different story, but most of you guys aren't in that situation either. So the algorithm is constantly deciding if you deserve to make money or you don't. And the algorithm runs the ad system now, and the algorithm on top of that only makes good decisions in static or predictable environments. An algorithm, all that an algorithm does is it studies all the past, everything that's happened, and predicts what will happen in the future from the past. The better quality data that you give Google, the better decisions they can ultimately make about you, and the more data that you've given them in the past, the same thing, okay? But when you layer on that factor with the factor of algorithms are ultimately only able to study data and make good predictions based upon that data, if things are in a more predictable static environment, now you understand why making changes in your ad account is actually bad, not a good thing overall. And if you can get good results without making any changes, you do it. Because the algorithm gets confused when you make a bunch of changes. It says, well, I have all this data, but I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow because this a-hole here changes his ads every 3 days for whatever damn reason, which I don't understand why they're doing it. As compared to this other guy over here, which may not have quite the same click-through rate or conversion rate as this guy here, I at least know what to expect with him and can make predictions as to where their ads should show up for what type of users, because nothing's changing, so I can be more confident about where to place him or her ultimately. And because they have to do this optimization on an individual user level, taking into consideration what previous searches the person's made, what they've said with the Google app installed on their phone in the recent past, what other things they've clicked on Google in the past. All of these different factors are considered, and trying to decide if an ad should any ads show up for somebody, and if so, which ads should show. Ultimately, they can only make these predictions to make the overall search results better when the data that they have collected so far, they can rely on it, and that another wild card isn't going to come up, which makes them not be able to rely on this data. And what I'm telling you for a fact, what Google's going to prefer to do in that situation where you keep changing stuff, they're going to prefer to promote the person and take the person seriously that don't make a bunch of changes. So the system is trying to make decisions for an entire search result at any given time, and you're looking like a constant wild card with all your changes, and that will get you placed in the bottom of the priority list in terms of them deciding who gets the best spots on Google, okay? And until you stop making those changes, it's never going to change. Now, at the same time, I know you got to make changes. So where's the middle ground on this to where I'm not making so many changes that Google puts me as a low priority in deciding who gets the top ad spots where all the most profitable people are, where I can still get future growth in my account because I'm testing new things? Well, that's a very fine, delicate balance there, and I'm going to explain that here next. However, I just want to say if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you absolutely should already, or have already, because all the information I'm sharing with you on this channel is coming from somebody who spends 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at our firm, and then tons of hours on the weekends just to produce the content on this channel. I've got to work 70 hours a week to make this possible. Nobody, as far as I know, in this whole industry is doing this that's actually actively managing ads, okay, to make this possible. They're either just talking about ads and they don't manage anything, or they only manage ads but they don't have content where they're sharing anything. And you have to do both. You got to work 70, 80 hours a week. I do this, and therefore the information's the most valuable information or valid information you're going to find online and on YouTube about how to make millions of dollars running ads for your business. So if you haven't subscribed yet, you absolutely should. You should also check out my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. My blog has even better information with the strategies that we are using to guarantee results for clients at our firm, with the step-by-step instructions, with the screenshots, everything you would need to use them. So if you like the channel and you haven't checked the blog out yet, you absolutely should. If you have any questions, by the way, about anything I'm covering today or any marketing or ad related question, you can always leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. So getting into the minutia of this and knowing how to get where you're at now to the top of the mountain where all the money is at, because you've optimized for the best customers and you found the best ad for your customers, found the best landing pages for your customers, the best targeting that should work for your brand, without discouraging the algorithm and say they're not going to take you as a serious contender for the top spots on Google or on YouTube or whatever because you're too much of an unpredictable. What you should do is you should make changes, absolutely, on an ongoing basis. Just do not make too many changes at once, okay? So this is going back to what I was saying at the very start of this video. You should be doing more research than changes by far. For every change you make, you should be doing an hour of research and thinking and spend 3 days thinking over a potential change, because every change is going to negatively affect your account. And if there's a certain threshold of it where you make even one change that's too big of magnitude of a change, or a bunch of small changes that are going to compound to a big overall change in Google's eyes, you want to think through what you're going to do before you do it heavily. And like I said, the best is to find somebody who they spend 40 hours a week doing ad strategy in their firms, and they gotta, ultimately, that their clients get results or whatever, or they get results for their companies, and ask them the change before you make any change, because that's going to be the best way to figure out if that change is going to, likely give you a positive change in the future or result, if you will, versus just going cowboy with this thing and just randomly guessing. For that matter, if you're going to search online for answers, like I mentioned a minute ago, most people that are talking about ads online, especially the ones with really good editing and stuff like that, they're not managing any damn ads themselves, I promise you. They run advertising firms, they sub out all the work to crappy freelancers and everything, and they don't know anything, okay? So if you're going to listen to them as to what to do by itself anyway, I feel sorry for you, basically. So you got to be able to go further than that and find people that actually make money with ads, okay? And then with that said, you got to just, no matter who you ask, your situation's always going to be unique. You sell something unique at least at a unique price point. You have a unique shipping options, on and on and on. So you just got to be able to get good at being logical after absorbing all possible information on the topic of the change that you want to make, then making your change after all that. Your goal is to make every change more than 50% likely to be a net positive for you long term, because once you do that, you have no other outcome for your business several years down the line than being at the top of that mountain that you want. That's all you got to have. And it's not that hard if you just actually put some effort into thinking how to do things, versus what the average person does is they go in there and they go, oh, let's change this. And they think for like 3 seconds on what to do. And it's just random. Don't be that person. Do your proper research before you do things. And then similar to that, the reason why you have to really think through your changes is because you only have so many changes at your disposal. You only have so many bullets in your gun, if you will. You only can make a change every 10 days or so, because if you start making a bunch of changes in a row, you risk your campaigns going back into learning mode, where Google takes you out of the preferred placement place you might have been at before, puts you down in the low priority list where you get all the crappiest traffic that's least likely to convert. And now your conversion rates are down in the toilet for a week or so, while Google evaluates should you be taken seriously or not. And I understand why they do it, of course. They got to make the search results better. How are they going to do this if they don't know if you're going to be here today, gone tomorrow? Is it going to be changed tomorrow? Who knows? So anyway, with that said, you make a change, you see it through for at least 10 days, then you make another change. Then you see it through for another 10 days, and then you make another change. Knowing that if you make a change, it's going to negatively affect your results in terms of your profitability. And then you're going to have to undo that change, and then that's going to negatively affect your results. On top of it, the bigger the change, by the way, in terms of magnitude of what it's actually changing to your ads, the more the negative results you're going to get short term while the algorithm adjusts to it. And there's a point where the change is so big, it's going to send your campaign into learning mode no matter what, particularly if it's going to change more than 15% of your overall action on your ads. You're going to take a large hit your results, changing something, and then having to change it back, to the point where it's only smart to do the proper research on the change you're going to make before you make the change. And because you're going to have to change it, wait 10 days to change it back, and then wait another 10 days. So it's 20 days before you can make any other change to your account, of which you just lost that 20 days. Your better bet would be to change something that you know has at least a 50% chance of working, waiting 10 days, see that it's working, and then make your next change, and go with that alternative course of a way to manage your ad account and grow your ad account for your business. That all said, and I'm not trying to turn this into a sales pitch here, generally speaking, the biggest problem that I see our people that reach out to our firm have, and in the comment section, is people have issues dealing with the algorithm. It's a super pain in the ass to deal with Google's algorithm now. The people that reach out to my firm and get coaching sessions every so often, once every 30 days, get on a 30-minute coaching call with me and say, okay, I did this and this and this. I'm planning to do this and this and this. Is this a good idea, Corey? And I can use my 20 years of Google Ads experience and 40 hours a week of ad strategy that I do for clients with their Google Ads accounts on the 50 different accounts that I manage on an ongoing basis, specifically just the strategy. We have people that do the execution and that support my efforts to find out if those changes are likely to work or not. And because I already know when it changes, if it's more than 50% likely to work or not. I'm in position to have that. Instead of just randomly guessing and say, oh, I'm not going to pay nobody nothing to help me. You're just letting your ego get in the way of getting your results, ultimately. In the long run, you make a 5% improvement here, and then a 10, then a 15. Instead of making 40 grand a year in profit, you're going to be making 400 grand a year in profit when you add up all those changes and go through those motions over the next 5 years. So why would you want to think so short term and say, I don't want to pay 30 minutes of coaching to find out what I'm about to do, is it likely to work or not? And just keep in mind that if my success or somebody else you hire has an 80% success ratio of what change they make had a positive effect on your results, and you have 40, it's going to take you, instead of 5 years to get to that 400 grand a month in profit that you want to make, or year in profit you want to make, instead of taking 5 years, it's going to take you 10. Do you really want, life's pretty short. Do you really want it to take an extra 5 years to get to the top of the mountain because you didn't want to pay for 30 minutes of coaching once a month? It's so inexpensive in the grand scheme of things to hire somebody and ask what you're wanting to do for 30 minutes a month, and then have the next 3 changes planned out with somebody that's going to have all the experience already. It's a complete no-brainer, and to have not to do that, or to do it, if you will. Our clients come in, they'll have 3 ideas. I'll tell them, these are good or not good, and then they go execute, and that's it. So actually really simple at the end of the day. They go do a bunch of research to think about what could likely work for them. They ask me, I say yes or no, they execute it, and then that's it. And then ultimately, the other thing that we do on coaching calls is when results go down, what people tend to do is they tend to panic because they built their business business too much relying on Google Ads to begin with, and then they start making dumb decisions because they're in fight or flight mode. And then that affects the results negatively, which then causes them to panic even more. And then they make another change, which affects the results even more just because the change itself, not even that the change was negative. And then their company just circles the toilet and boom, they're out of business. All because they couldn't control their emotion. What we'll do at our agency as well is on that, coaching call, I'll let them know if whether what's going on is going to be, it's just some bad luck. The consumer has changed over the last week or two, or you legitimately have to back out a change you did, if you will. So as much as it is trying to find the next best thing to do, it's also our results are bad, how do we fix this? And I'll tell you from experience, most of the time the answer is do nothing. Do nothing because the weather has recently changed and that's screwing you up. Or your Google business profile screwed up, it got suspended. That's what's affecting your ads. So don't make any changes to your ads because you're only going to make your situation even worse. But the average person has no time to understand every factor of what affects the algorithm, especially considering the algorithm's constantly changing. And when you deal with somebody like me, you get the unique perspective of I have to manage and get results on 50 different ad accounts at any given time. So I see stuff, not only just what works on 1 or 2 accounts, but on 50 different accounts or doesn't work. And I've been doing it over 10 years now. There's no better experience than you can have of that. I mean, you could be a great ad person, but only work on 1 account. You're not going to know if that one thing normally works or doesn't work because there's a lot of stuff that works great on 1 account, but it wouldn't work for the average. It would only work for 10% of accounts on average, but you're not going to know that unless you're dealing with somebody who does strategy on 50 different accounts on top of it, which is why, by the way, if you're going to hire somebody to help you, you hire somebody who manages a bunch of accounts, not just hire them, bring them internal, because now they lost all the perspective. You try to read all you want about certain strategies, but they really don't have any firsthand experience anymore of what works and what doesn't work and what percentage of the time does it work. You ask me something like, oh, Corey, should I use this PMAX feed only strategy with maximized conversion value bidding strategy with it? I could say, well, about 60-70% of the time that works because I've seen it. So again, I'm not trying to turn this into a sales pitch. You can hire me, you can hire whoever the hell you damn well want. It's really hard to figure out what next move to make so you can cut the time down and the time it's going to take to reach the top of the mountain when you really just trying this all out the first time ever on your own account. It truly is. It's way too complicated nowadays. When I started it in 2005 running ads on Google Ads, it was really simple. Over the years, it's gotten more and more complicated. And then about 6, 7, 8 years ago, the algorithm got involved and now it's super complex. You can make a small change, screw up all your results because the change put you back in a learning mode. And that's just the way that it is now. Not only that, but it takes time to make strategies work. You have to put the thing into motion. Then you have to wait a certain period of time to see the results of it. It might take 10 days to see even a blip in terms of a measurable increase, but the full result doesn't come for 3 to 6 months in the future or 12 months in the future or 18 months in the future because it takes time for the algorithm to see it works on a big enough time scale that it's for sure going to work permanently because you've got thousands of clicks for the algorithm to look at. And so, not only can you screw your account up, but it could take a really, really long time to see stuff works on top of it. And you're just going to you're going to run out of time and you're going to be dead before you ever get to the results you want because of all this. So reach out to my agency if you want some of that coaching. I also do full-on services where we do a done-for-you service where we'll say, hey, Mike or Jane, we'll actually increase your profitability of your ads by at least 60% over the next 6 months. If we don't, there's no fee. And here's the price once we do so, which either will offset the management fees we charge or don't. And if they don't, we will say, hey, we can't provide you enough value, go somewhere else because there's no profit for you in hiring us. We could do that exact thing for you and nobody else has the cojones to do this because they're not as good as what we're doing at our agency with what we're doing with our ad clients. Furthermore, we also offer ad templates. If we've worked in your niche market before, we can sell you the winning ads, landing pages, campaign templates, all of it that work for your niche market. You copy paste those into your ad account and get the same results we did in a different city or country that you're in. And as far as, shortcutting your way to success, that truly is the best way. You could consult with me on stuff you want to do, or just start with something that we eventually got to after 3 or 4 or 5 years of running an ad account and just skip right to that. If we've worked in your market, it's a no-brainer. If we haven't worked in your market, you could use these templates candidates to start whole other businesses up from scratch and have the business be guaranteed to work because you got the magic ad campaign that sells it at a 500,000% ROI or whatever you ultimately need. We've got several people that have done just that. So if you're interested in that, you can let me know at my agency at guaranteedppc.com as well. So think through your decisions that you're going to make before you make them 3 times or more before making any change. Given that A, you'll lose money that you won't be able to recover when stuff doesn't work because you have to change it, then change it back, which is going to give you 2 times of losing money, but also because it's going to take you forever to get to where you want to go. If you're just randomly getting results, you change stuff and you have 30% of the time it works versus 80-90% of the time it works. You're going to get to the end destination with your ads much sooner in the process, and then with that, you can do all the studying you want online. It's still not as good as working directly with an expert to bounce your ideas off of, even though if you're smart enough, using the information on this channel alone can get you pretty darn far with what you're doing anyway. So I'll wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said Google Ads was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.